Ezekiel or Yehezkel, chapter number 18 and verse number 20 says this: "The righteousness of the righteous is upon himself, and the wrongness of the wrong is upon himself." This chapter goes on to say this: "But the wrong, if he turns from all of his sins which he has done, and he shall guard all my laws, and shall do righteousness and right ruling, he shall certainly live, he shall not die. And all the transgressions which he has done shall not be remembered against him. In his righteousness that he has done, he shall live." In contrast, verse 24, "But when a righteous one turns away from his righteousness and does unrighteousness, according to all the abominations that the wrong one has done, shall he live? All his righteousness which he has done shall not be remembered. For his trespass which he has committed, and for his sin which he has committed, for them he shall die." Verse 26, "When a righteous one turns away from his righteousness and does unrighteousness, and he dies in it, it is because of his unrighteousness which he has done that he dies." Why go into all of that long reading? Well, this Barry Phillips with 10-Minute Torah, day number 5, the Torah portion, Balak, meaning devastator or waster. And before we explain chapter 18 of Ezekiel and its connection to Bamidbar in Numbers chapter 25, let me say this: Shabbat Shalom to you and your family, and to all those who gather with you or those that you view with online. May the Father's presence and power and revelation be with you. So I want to make it a special weekend, a special Shabbat for you. Now, the prophet, what is he talking about? You are righteous if you continue in your righteousness. You are unrighteous if you act in unrighteousness. What this has to do with chapter 25, it says that in verse 1, "And Israel dwelt in Shittim, and the people began to whore with the daughters of Moab, and they invited the people to the slaughterings of their mighty ones. The people ate and bowed down to their mighty ones. Thus Israel was joined to Baal Peor, and the displeasure of Yahweh burned against Israel." The result of that is the leaders of this movement were all caught up together, and they were supposed to be hanged, and a plague broke out, and a large amount of people, I believe 22,000 men, died because of this. What in the world is going on? The storyline up until this point has been that behind the backs of Israel, oblivious to them, they had no idea this is going on, Balak, the sovereign of Moab, has hired Balaam, a prophet for profit, to come in and to use words to try to invoke the dark forces of the spirit realm against Israel to render them ineffective in withstanding a Moabite defense. That did not work out. We later learn that Balaam counseled Balak and said, "Look, this people is righteous in the eyes of Yah, and he will protect them. He will go before them. He will fight for them. But if you can seduce them and turn them away from their fidelity to Yah and have infidelity, if they will commit transgression against the laws of their Elohim, then their Elohim, he himself, will turn against them and fight against them." They have this glaring weakness, potentially, in that they can be lured into unrighteousness. So instead of an army of men, they send out a party of women. Since the time of creation, when Adam was first introduced to Chava, I cannot imagine went through that incredible mind that Adam had. He's an incredibly intelligent, far superior mind to anything that we have in our day. I mean, it doesn't take much imagination to understand that. But for him to realize this is now bone of my bone and flesh of my flesh, this is me, but a completely different package. Man has been fascinated by woman to his own hurt in this respect. Women are beautiful. They're designed to be beautiful. They have this amazing ability about them to perceive and communicate, to enhance our lives, to be a very, I want to say, significant part of our lives. They are our lives. If you've been married any period of time, you understand what I'm trying to say. It's unexplainable, the role of a woman in a man's life. And our world, unfortunately, and it has been so for many, many, many generations, women have been exploited. Women have been viewed in the most degrading of fashions. They have been lured at, leered at, catcalled after. They have been lusted for. They have learned to use this seductive prowess that they have to turn men's hearts into the wrong directions. And the storylines have been made into movies and novels ad nauseum. In this situation, be mindful of this. Am Israel has been in the wilderness for 40 years, and for the vast majority of that time, the substance of their food has been bread from heaven, the revelation of Yeshua the Messiah. Just last week, they were talking about, we're so tired of this light bread. They were tired of the revelation of Yeshua. The rabbinical scholars say that the bread was so nutritious and so pure that there was no need for any residue to be in the body, to be defecated out. Let's just be as easy with that as we can. So there was no need for the men on a regular basis to take their shovel and go outside the camp and dig a hole. It would seem that then that their bodily functions were put into hibernation for a while. Now, if they ate meat and ate other substances, then yes. But if it was just a subsistence on manna, then potentially there was no need for that. Beautiful women, dressed in an alluring fashion, speaking seductively, using all of the flatteries and the flashes of the eyes and the smiles and the gratuitous remarks and all of the feminine wiles that they would have potentially employed. Then they said, we're having a party and we have meat. And so at a drunken feast, these men were so enraptured by that which they had not experienced, that the beauty of their own Israeli women, that the promise of an inheritance in the land that is before them, the memory of conquering the Amorites and Og of Bashan and his city-state, all of that evidently left the mind. They were not thinking rationally. There's the key. We're not thinking. We're feeling, we're responding, we're just reacting, we're just giving in. You have to remain diligent, vigilant, focused. The women on the internet, the women on the movie screen, the movie on the television screen, brothers, they're the women of Moab. They come to rob you of your inheritance. Do not give them the second look that they dress for. You can't help what passes in front of you or what walks by you, but you can help not turning your head. Do not give them a second look. Stay true to the ones that the Father has put in your home and in your family. If a woman off of the street will seduce you and you say no, then she'll go to the next man. But the women who love you and stand by you and worship with you, they will stay true to you and to Elohim, and that leads to righteousness. I encourage you in that. We'll talk to you again next week. Until then, shalom.